Good morning, everybody. Fergus Dolan here from NALA. You're very welcome to our webinar this morning on values, beliefs, and autonomy, promoting learner autonomy for all. We're delighted to have Catriona Warren with us this morning. Catriona works with SETU, and SETU is Southeast Technological University. It used to be WIT, Waterford Institute of Technology. Catriona is going to facilitate this morning. So I'll hand it over to you, Catriona, and all the best.
Thanks, Fergus. Lovely to be here. And hello, everybody. I'm hoping this will, I'm going to share my slide. You have a few slides, but I'm hoping this will be as interactive as possible. No, I'm saving instead of sharing, sorry. Can everybody see my screen now?
Yes. Yeah, perfect.
I have a couple of activities, I suppose, that I'm going to get you to do more of the talking than me. It's an interest of mine, learner autonomy, and I'm very, very interested in promoting autonomy for all learners within the classroom space. But you, as those who are in the classroom, have this expertise as well. So we're just going to chat about your experiences as well as our beliefs on what is autonomy and how can we promote it. I did this workshop last week as well for NALA in the ESOL conference, and I've tweaked it a little bit since then. So I'm hoping I've made the right tweaks, and I'll hopefully get some feedback from you at the end of it as well. But we're going to start off with a discussion on your beliefs on what learner autonomy is, and then we'll be sharing some practices or thoughts on how you can promote autonomy in the classroom before we finish up with some feedback. So I suppose we forget how much our histories and our beliefs and values around teaching and learning influence every single decision we make in the classroom. And our beliefs are formed over years and years and years and years from very different places. And sometimes as tutors, we forget that it's okay that this is who we are. We bring our personality to our classroom, we bring our history, we bring our biographies with us. And we're talking then about where do we form our beliefs about teaching, which will have an influence on our beliefs about autonomy and learner autonomy. So these do come from our own learning experiences, whether it's language learning, whether it was when we were in primary school, secondary school, or whatever it might be, observing our peers even. We learn what good teaching is from watching others, and bad teaching maybe sometimes. Our own professional practice, we're in the classroom, we know what works. We might be reading what the experts are saying, but then you go, well, actually, that doesn't work in my context. So we have our own professional practices as well that inform our values and our beliefs. Institutional practices. So, depending on where we are working, we are possibly encouraged to work in different ways. And this could be very liberating, but it can also be constraining. So sometimes you might think, I'm a big believer in using your mobile phone in the classroom, but not to go on WhatsApp or Facebook, whereas some places you can't actually use your mobile phones. Learners it'll be encouraged to leave your mobile phone at the door or switch it off. I've already said your personality is huge. You can't leave it behind you. So that is part of your practice as well. And then we tend to ascribe to different principles and approaches to teaching that we've come across through the years. Obviously, within ESOL, within EFL, and within adult literacy and adult education, it is about communicative approach. It's about the language experience. It's about communication and bringing your learners' experiences into the classroom with you. So there's so many factors to take into consideration. So bearing that in mind, I'm going to ask you straight away to put something into the chat box about how you would define autonomy, because everyone's definition might be slightly different, and that is quite okay. There's no right or wrong answer here. It's what do you think, or how would you define autonomy? In your own words. You don't need to go Googling the dictionary definition, or you can if you like, but you don't need to. So it's just in your own words. How would you define autonomy? Into the chat box when you're ready, please, and thank you.
So we're encouraging everyone to stick something down, just a few words, a bullet point, something, please.
And as I said, it's different. Some of us will have longer answers, and it might take a minute to think. So take a minute to think before you put something in. I know it always seems very strange when it's so quiet on here. It's very eerie, but there's a few coming in now, and I just want to give a little bit of that time. And Maeve's comment, the first comment there was about giving time. So silence can be threatening, but it is actually allowing thinking. So don't be afraid of the silence in your classroom sometimes as well. It's very hard online to allow the silence, but we have to let that. So I'm going to give it another 10 or 15 seconds before I go through the posts. I know Fergus was trying to encourage people. I said, I'm going to be a real teacher here now. And go, there's a few comments in and a few people haven't commented yet. But look, don't be afraid to participate, because we do want it as participatory as possible. So Maeve, I loved the first one there, straight up with the time, giving the learners time and space to share their voice. It's really important to give that and to start building the self-efficacy of learners to get that autonomy. Paula, individuality, absolutely. As much as us as teachers and tutors and practitioners are individuals, so are our learners, so we have to remember that. Allowing assignments that vary interests, absolutely. We can get quite prescriptive in what we ask our learners to do sometimes, but when we can allow flexibility, it's encouraging autonomy. And those decisions, there you have it, Daisy, allowing learners to have the right to make decisions or having a choice. Paul, again, encouraging all to, the small talk, the small chat, encouraging all to take part, and learners can dictate the lesson plan to a point. They can. And I mean, it's really important to plan our lessons, I think, but at the same time, we have to be flexible enough to weave in and out of what we expect to do each time. So I think in the chat there, does anyone want to comment on any of those before I move on to the next slide, which has the classic definition of autonomy? Feel free to jump in and shout or put your hand up if you do want to say anything about any of those. Okay, so the classic definition, and we're going back a bit in time here, and excuse me for the mispronunciation of the person's name, Hollich or Hollick, in 1981. And what he defined autonomy, student autonomy, was as the ability to take charge of one's learning. And it's to have and to hold the responsibility for all the decisions concerning all aspects of learning. Now, I have a bit of an issue with the all, because I don't know that our learners always have the capacity for this. And we'll talk about this as we go through this morning. But these decisions around determining the learning objectives, defining the content and progression, selecting the methods and techniques to be used, monitoring the procedure of acquisition, and evaluating what has been acquired. So this evaluation, I think, and helping our learners to become good at evaluating their own learning is really important to encourage autonomy. More recently, Severinson would say that motivation and then investment in learning are also considerations in autonomy. So the more invested we are in our learning, or our learners are in their learning the language, the more motivated they will be to become more autonomous. And then Little back in 1991, and he's been saying it again and again, autonomy is a logical outcome of a student-centered environment. And I think most of our classrooms nowadays tend to be much more student-centered. So you're probably fostering this autonomy and promoting this autonomy without even realizing it sometimes. So today has given us an opportunity to actually reflect on that and see what we're doing in our classrooms. There was research done, I think it was back in 2012, and there was a great survey in there on teachers' beliefs about autonomy. And I would have used some of those statements in the workshop last week, but I've taken them out. We're going to talk about them today rather than do the survey. But what did emerge was these aspects of learner autonomy that are adopted by the English language sector, I suppose. I'm not going to go through all 13 of them, but the ones that I've starred are the ones that I think are really reflective of this autonomy. And I'm going to jump to number 13 straight away, because it tells us that autonomy is interpreted differently by different cultures. So we have to be really aware in our classroom of the capacity. If you think about number one there, the construct of capacity, can all our learners be autonomous? I would say yes. However, number 8 tells us we have to develop that autonomy. So we have to be able to train our learners, show them explicitly, model and explain strategies we are using and implementing and helping them figure out how to become more autonomous. So some will be very autonomous innately. They have this in their own skill set. Some we will have to promote and help develop this autonomy within their skill set. Okay. So again, I will be sharing these slides to be able to get it again, to be able to see each of these more clearly. But within the survey, and we're going to go into breakout rooms now shortly, I took 3 statements from the survey. When I did it as part of the workshop last week, I had 12 statements. The big survey has about 30 or 40 statements. So I've picked 3 that I think are good for discussion points. And I'll be able to put them into the chat box. I'm just going to have to minimize this and I can put them into the chat box. Or if you want to take a screenshot before you go into the breakout room of these, I'd like you to discuss 1 or all 3 of them. Again, this is bringing in autonomy, or discuss something different about autonomy if you prefer, but it's how strongly would you agree or disagree with these statements? And in what ways do you agree or disagree with them and why? So the first one is learner autonomy requires the learner to be totally independent of the teacher. We are redundant if our learners are autonomous. What do you think? The second one there is motivated language learners are more likely to develop learner autonomy than learners who are not motivated. So back to that motivation piece again. And the third one, autonomy means that learners can make choices about how they learn. And we've already kind of talked about that, or I certainly have this morning. So do you want to pick one of those or discuss all 3 of them in your breakout room? And how strongly you agree or disagree. Now, Fergus has already reminded us, and I have remembered, I don't normally, but can you nominate somebody in your breakout room to feedback to the full group when we come back? I'm just checking the time now, it's 1:15. I'd say, Fergus, we could probably give about 15 minutes to this.
Yep.
That's okay. And if everyone in the room thinks it's 15 minutes okay, or do you think it'd be too long for you?
And Catriona, while they're thinking, do you want 2 groups of 3 or 1 group of 6?
We'll go with 2 groups of 3, I think, Fergus.
Okay.
Yeah, gives everyone a better opportunity to
and can you copy that into the chat function so that they can see the question while they're in the breakout room? Is that a runner? I'll just pause the recording while we're at the breakout rooms.
Okay, so I think we had 2 breakout rooms only, and there were 4 in one room and 2 in the other. So I know that might have impacted the conversation or the chat. You might have had loads to say or a little less to say. But group 1, did you nominate somebody? Room 1, and that was the room that had 4 people in it. I don't have the names in front of me now, so I think that was Paula. You were in there, and
Maeve.
and Rima and Maeve.
You want to speak, Maeve? Or
no, I think Paula, you should speak. You're really good in the room, so I think you should speak.
So on the first one, we thought that that maybe there's different levels of independence, different levels, and that it wouldn't be totally, until you're at a quite very high level really in education. So different levels of education, and that at the lower levels where we tend to teach now, up level 1, 2, and 3, we all kind of said that the learners rely very heavily on us to be a leader and a coach, and it can take a long time for that to build that autonomy, but we see it very minute advances in it, that kind of way. And over years, you'd see a good advance, and that might be even moving from level 2 to level 3. We spoke about the motivation, really, how to keep people motivated. And one person in the group teaches the younger kind of teenagers or young 20s, and said that, the digital distractions that they have, that motivation, homework and things like that, that it's difficult. Then on the second question, on the motivation, we spoke about how it can be difficult. The language groups, some of them are very motivated, but it's hard to instill that motivation as a tutor, we found. And we talked about why that might be. And one thing that came up is that some of these people can have huge worries, you know, and even when they're in class, one lady said you can still see that they're distracted. They're worried about their kids, or they're worried about this or their job or different things.
Yeah.
So I think that's a good point. I suppose the worries and stresses that people can be under, and that they can affect their performance in the class. So we didn't get to number 3.
Okay, no, that's brilliant.
Okay.
And I think when we have to remember our learners are human beings. They're not just students sitting in the classroom, and there's an awful lot of other stuff going on for them as well, when they're in our classroom. I think what struck me there about the first one, the teacher independence and the different levels, autonomy is dynamic. Is one of the key things I've found out, I suppose, is learners can be more autonomous on a given day and less autonomous on another day. And it could be because of whatever distractions or worries they're having, or it could be their interest levels in what you're doing, or a fear of technology, or whatever it might be. So their level of autonomy, not just because of their academic levels, can vary depending on what's going on any given day or in any given context. Thank you, Paula, for giving that feedback. And room 2 then had Zoe and Matthew, I think, was it?
No, Daisy.
Oh, Daisy, sorry.
That's okay.
And are you going to feedback, Daisy, is it? Thank you.
Yeah, I'm going to feedback. So we just kind of spoke about our own experiences with our groups, but
Yeah.
we started from the bottom up. So we just said autonomy. We agreed with the 2 bottom statements, with the autonomy means that learners can make choices about how they learn. And we said as well with the motivated language learners that they can become, with the autonomy, they can then find other ways to learn at home, like log into YouTube if they're learning a language, or, you know, they could actively seek out more opportunities to learn.
Yeah.
But we disagree with the last one, but we did say that autonomy doesn't just happen in the classroom, that it can spill out into other areas of their lives as well, like you know, using their voice and opportunities and stuff like that. So that's kind of how far we got, but it was a good chat, I thought.
Brilliant, thank you. No, I think going down to the first one, the last one, I suppose, starting at the bottom. And again, that's one of the things, there's never a right or a wrong way of doing these things. And that's great about people being able to, you know, no fear of starting at the beginning or the end. There is no beginning or end for these. And that's what I think about autonomy, what we need to bring into our classroom, that our learners know this as well. It's okay if you do it, approach it differently, because that is you making a choice or a decision. So making choices, can I put you on the spot then, either Daisy or Matthew, and the other group can come in on this one as well. What kind of choices do you get your learners or help your learners make in the classroom? Choices around what? And I know I'm putting you on the spot with that one, but I think it's a nice add-on to this discussion.
For me, I have a word wall, and it's like a, you know, an interactive thing for that. But I ask them, do they want to do writing or the word wall, or, you know, I let them choose.
Brilliant.
Even if they, you know, I have low language ones, but even if they just say the game or writing or something like that, just using their voice.
Brilliant. No, that's a great idea, Daisy. Word wall is fantastic as well, but some people will go, oh, not again. You know, so. And Matthew, did you have any? Do you mind calling on you, Matthew? Is he gone? Maybe he might be gone. Anyone in room 1? Any thoughts on giving the learners choice? I know you didn't get to discuss that one. So have you any examples of where you might give your learners choice in your practice?
I've given them recently, like we use a textbook, and I found I wasn't really using it. I was bringing in other resources, other worksheets, you know, doing other things with them, and I asked them, you know, I just kind of like said, oh, we better get back to the book at one point, and they're kind of like, they were like, oh, do we have to?
Brilliant.
So anyway, they came back. Anyway, you know, we had a discussion about it as best we could, and they found the book boring. It wasn't relevant, and it didn't really get deep into any of the topics they wanted to learn. So we said, right, I said, use your book for homework if you want, or extra work, and maybe we'll do some, you know. So I'm kind of following what they want to do, as well as getting the QQI stuff done. But you know, it's trying to keep it all. But it was I found that was really very interesting. But giving them the choice as well, so at least I know they're happier doing the work I'm doing with them.
Brilliant. And we can become quite reliant on a textbook, I think, and especially if learners have had to buy a textbook, you know, you kind of feel the value of that. But I think, yeah, as you say, if learners don't want to, we can use the textbook as a resource to let us know we're doing the right topics for a certain level or the right grammar points for a certain but coming up with then things that the learners would be more interested in will that's brilliant. Tina, is it? Maeve, sorry, Maeve, sorry.
Right.
I can't see all the faces on the screen and at the same time. Anyone else want to comment on how they make choices or let learners make choices in the classroom?
Just maybe on people's hobbies, that we know what hobbies people might have.
Yeah.
And if they were looking for, you know, teach some computers, if they were looking for things online, that, you know, look for things within their own hobby.
Exactly. So it's bringing in their interests.
Yeah.
And I think, and their needs then as well, Paula, goes back to what you mentioned about the worries and difficulties learners might have. If we are having conversations or discussions or doing activities around their needs, their interests, their wants, their likes, and the needs could be around worries, like supporting them to have the language to discuss or try and sort out some of their worries, you know, they might be able to engage a little bit more. Brilliant. We're going to move on to the next, unless anyone has anything else they would like to say, we will move on to the next activity. And I am putting you back into breakout rooms again, or Fergus is going to put you back into breakout rooms. But before we move on to that, anyone else got anything they would like to comment or ask about this part of the workshop?
Catriona, one or two have accidentally dropped out. Like I know you were trying that, Matthew. So I might just do one breakout room because it'd be 5 people.
Okay, that's fine, because we're going to use a Padlet, and again, you can be independent and autonomous in there as well with how you approach it. So that would be fine, Fergus. Thank you.
Yeah.
And in this breakout room, again, going, you know, kind of subscribing to autonomy ourselves. How do you promote autonomy? So you've had a little bit of this discussion, and obviously, if some people have there'll be different people in the room now, as you'll be hearing different voices, which is brilliant. You have a choice, or you might be able to do all of these. So how do you promote autonomy? Or can you give advice to these learners? So there's 4, again, questions or statements. And I think Daisy nodded to one of these already. I was going to say, you've done your homework. When we're talking about technology and YouTube, so you have some of these already, and you're doing some of these already in your classroom. So again, I don't know if I can take a screenshot of this one. I'll have to see how I can put this into the breakout room for you.
Oh, yeah.
But
have a look at those, everyone, and
actually, sorry, they're on the Padlet. Don't
Great.
brain wakes up, they are on the Padlet. So I'm gonna so it is basically, where can I get more speaking practice? And no one speaks English where I live. So whether that's at home with their family and they're speaking their home language, or if it's in a refugee center or whatever it might be. How can I use technology? So again, my phone or the internet to help me improve my English. Is learning the words in a dictionary a good way of increasing vocabulary? And I was struggling with that one yesterday. Is it are learning the words or is learning the words? So apologies if I've got the wrong verb there. And the 4th one then, I'd like to read in English, but I don't know where to start. And again, I changed this yesterday from stating the level of the learner to give you a bit more freedom to decide whether if they're more advanced or a lower level learner, what recommendations might you give to these learners? So you can get into the Padlet either via the QR code there, or I'll put the link into the chat box now as well.
Great, thanks.
Okay, chat.
I'll just pause it.
That.
Good.
Good. Do you want to? Again, we forgot actually. I know you were not posting onto the Padlet board perhaps, but I forgot to say, will you nominate a speaker? Anyone want to volunteer to give us some feedback?
Daisy, do you want to speak for us?
I spoke the most.
Thank you, Daisy.
See you have your hand up there.
Love how you're volunteer-chosen. I learned that one last week. Volunteer-chosen.
For the first one, we said, where can I don't think we got to the last one, but
That's okay.
Practice. I said there was one in the ILAC Centre. There was a library that does English speaking, and we thought that was good. But Maeve said that her group might not have had the best experience there, that they didn't find it useful, or it was too loud. And that might be, I'm just thinking now that it might be because it's a different classroom setting. You know, you might be used to sitting behind a table
Yeah.
and the person in front, but when it comes to sitting in a group, or you know, the focus is on everybody else instead of the teacher, they might not like that.
Okay, yeah, different classroom dynamic or structure setup.
And then for the second one, I said that again, I use Wordwall, but sometimes I have a group chat in my classes, and I send the link to the Wordwall for people to access the games at home. And I read any of the readings that we do in class. I would also send like a voice note or a video of me with my pen under each word.
Oh, brilliant.
Just so that they can practice that. Depends on, like, some classes they only get 2 times a week, and some classes get 3 times a week, but it
Yeah.
means that they practice while they're outside. And then we were speaking about the dictionary. We were talking about Google Translate there, but we didn't get to say if we liked it or not.
Okay. Do you like it? It's supposed to be like, I'll put you on the spot now.
Me personally, I'm not a big fan of Google Translate because, well, I don't mind it for one word, but I have a guy in my class and he'll be texting, or he'll be typing in. I do the question strips and he'll be typing in the questions into it, and it'll take maybe 10 minutes for him to type that in, and then the activity will be nearly over.
Oh, okay, yeah,
I don't want to be too hard on the person to stop, but you know, I try and just encourage maybe just one word instead of the full sentence.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, Google Translate is brilliant, but I think it's very it's content, like you don't get the context, you know, so it can give misinformation or disinformation depending on what way it's being used. So, and you didn't get to the last one, I think you said, is that, am I right?
Yeah, we didn't get to the last one. No.
That Padlet is there and you have the link. So if anyone does want to go back into it later on, I'm just very aware of the time and I don't want to keep you after 12 o'clock. The Padlet is there if anyone wants to go back into it, and I'm going to keep it as a live Padlet. So anytime I do this workshop, it's going to be added to as a resource for giving ideas on promoting autonomy. So I can share that with you, Fergus, as well.
Thank you.
When
I can
share
send
this
it
out.
on with your
Yeah.
presentation, Catriona, to everybody.
Exactly. Thank you. And just to, I suppose, thank you. But the last thing I'm going to say here is just a couple of tips, and you've probably covered a lot of these already. And one of the things I think we forget in a language classroom is not participating is a choice as well. We mightn't like to give that choice, but it is an autonomous decision of not participating or choosing what it is you want to do. So bringing in tasks and activities around the learner's needs or interest, we've already mentioned. Using their life experiences. Again, these are literacy practices as well. But using concrete learning and thinking, we can be quite abstract sometimes. And I think Maeve was talking about the course book or the textbook, that they weren't that interested in it. It's a bit abstract sometimes. It's away from their concrete knowledge, or, you know, talk about their own town or village rather than a town in America. So using their own information, whether it's phone numbers, birth dates, than somebody's phone number in a book. Collaboration. Remember, social learning is really, really important, supporting each other. This explicit strategy instruction. So obviously, if autonomy is a construct, we have to help our learners become more autonomous. It's not necessarily always innate or inbuilt. So explicitly helping learners become more autonomous, showing them how to become more autonomous, telling them, giving them examples, giving them suggestions. Goal setting, be it long and short term. And that helps learners then self-evaluate a little bit better. And that can help build their self-belief or self-efficacy around their own ability to learn. So again, this is all going to change depending on the level of language the learners have. But it's a very dynamic process, autonomy, okay? A quick, any questions, comments before I kind of say, let Fergus finish up, because it's minutes past 12 on my laptop now at the moment. So does anyone have anything they would like to ask, comment? And please do feel free to get in touch with me at any stage if you want. And there's on the slides as well, just for when you do get them, there's a few resources there that actually have some nice tips and strategies. So when you get that, you'll be able to find those articles as well. And that is me. Thank you very much, everybody. Well done.
Thanks very much, Catriona. That was really informative. As Karima said, very informative session. So and you were great at drawing out everyone and, you know, getting everyone to participate and give their ideas and discuss what people want. So thanks, Catriona, and thanks everyone for joining in. I hope you got something from it. I will send on Catriona's slides and the link to her Padlet so that you can have a look through that again if you want. So thanks very much,
Thanks very
and
much, Fergus. Thanks, everybody.
enjoy the weekend, everyone. Bye bye.
Happy Friday.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye bye.